The way the wind is moving across this field of crops is really, really eye-catching. So eye-catching, in fact, that I couldn't walk past it without stopping to make something out of it. It doesn't really lend itself to a still image. You're never going to catch the way that the wind is kind of moving across in a really cool way. But what we can do is make a short film of it. Now, by default, your camera phone is going to record things as a video at the speed in which they normally happen, which is fine if not particularly eye-catching. So what I'm going to do is shoot a slow motion film instead, which on this phone it's probably going to be in the order of 100 frames a second, or roughly 4 times slower than it would normally capture at. So if I come up to here and select slow motion here, I have lots of options when it comes to angles, but I think the most interesting one is going to be down a bit lower, where I get the chance to play with things like perspective and scale. So what I'm going to do is scroll over here to more and then hit slow motion. Exactly how slow is going to depend on exactly what kind of phone that you have, but we should be looking at something in the region of 100 frames a second or so. Once we've got an angle that we like the look of, this is going to be a bit of a waiting game, because what we don't have here is really consistent wind blowing across. So right now everything looks quite still, and we've just got these little kind of tremors in the foreground here, and it's really just a case of waiting until we get a really good gust that's really going to push all of the blades of grass around, and we're going to get something nice looking. So if I frame up here, or just as the wind picks up as well, actually we'll start rolling on that. And as the wind blows across there, being in slow motion is really going to exaggerate all of the movement, and we should end up with something fairly entrancing looking even. We'll just pause on that, because the other thing that I want to do is try a much more abstract frame, where I'm going to drop my phone down into the grass. What we get from there is this kind of jungle of foliage, and as it all moves, we're going to catch loads of that movement at 100 frames a second, and it's going to look really nice. And we can also do lots of camera moves, where I could dolly in through the grass and then come back, or even tilt up and back in. And because everything is going to be slowed down by so much, you can actually do quite quick camera moves, which are going to be really interesting to watch later. So this slow motion clip doesn't quite have the expansiveness that I hoped that it might, but I do like every now and then in here you just catch a moment where there isn't too much camera movement and the wind is just rolling over the top of everything. It's very restful, and I have to say, if you could make a sort of loop of this, it would probably look pretty cool, just playing back repeatedly. So this is a nice kind of initial effort. This is such a cool looking angle of this wheat shot really low down. It's one of the great things about camera phone photography and videography, is that you can put your camera in places that other cameras just can't get at. I love this sky in the background, and it's actually quite a cool looking still, but start playing it, and this camera move that we're in the middle of, where the camera is pushing inwards, I think it's absolutely hypnotic. It gives you a really weird sense of scale of being kind of tiny in a jungle. It's a really good use, I think, of slow motion.